Hello, everyone, and welcome to Get Better, a show about two longtime friends trying their best, growing up, and hopefully getting better. I'm Zach Johnson.
And I'm Sam Cherry. Zach,
I'm King Cherry.
I would like to get us into our king mindset by first reading you a couple of quotes.
Okay. Oh, right. Yes, king quotes. How could I forget?
The first, power is the pivot on which everything hinges. He who has the power is always right. The weaker is always wrong. That's Machiavelli from The Prince.
And not a shred of irony detected.
Nope. In the midst of chaos, there is always opportunity. That is Sun Tzu from The Art of War. Some of the mind-controlled NWO are called blue bloods due to the blood being a higher copper content and the non-Rh negative blood line humans. All U.S. presidents have negative blood, and their lineage can be traced back to Charles II and of the 17th century and Vladimir the Impaler, a.k.a. the original Dracula. That, of course, is James W. Lee, the writer of One World Tartarian, and hoo-wee, this book is wild.
I was just like, yes, David Fincher.
Of course.
Oh my
so I got
gosh.
the book.
Oh, I'm so excited.
It's pretty illegible. I've got a lot of excerpts for you. I realize as I'm reading it, there's a lot to talk about. I was surprised by how many memes are in it. There's a lot of just pictures.
Memes.
There's so many memes. In fact, on that page right next to it, there is a picture. It's gonna be kind of hard to describe, but have you ever seen the Satan statue, where it's like the goat head and the human body with the wings?
The goat head and the human body with the wings. I mean, I know roughly what you're talking about. I don't know if I know exactly what you're mentioning, but yeah, I know what you're talking about.
It's a big statue of Satan, I guess. Anyway, so it's him, the statue with two fingers up, and then next to him is Dr. Fauci with him like pointing at something, but also pointing with two fingers.
Okay.
And the top text says, "We are at war," and the bottom text says, "With an invisible enemy," which I think is great because I assume this guy's a vaccine denier, but also it's like, like demons, but then also a virus, which is invisible. There's another picture of all of the presidents, except they stop at George H.W. Bush. Wonder why. I'm sorry, they stop at George W. Bush, and it says, "What are the odds that all presidents have the same bloodline?" I can answer that question. 0.
I like that he's, because I not to get back on our president bullshit, but some of the presidents were kind of wieners,
Lots of them.
Yeah, there's a good chunk that, you got the memorable ones, but no one's like, ooh, Franklin Pierce, every single one of them.
He's got dragon blood.
Yeah, every single one of James Buchanan, you bet your ass. Chester A. Arthur, yes. But it's like all of them except Barack Obama.
Well, right, that's the thing is
yeah,
it's on the same page as a picture of Dr. Fauci, so it's like, and I know just from looking it up, like this book came out in December 2020, or not December. It came out in December of 2020. So it's like, Obama exists. You know what I mean? Anyway, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
That is nowhere near.
Oh, this book came out in 2020?
Yes, it did.
Oh, wow. This guy's a bit ahead of the curve.
Well, like I said, Dr. Fauci's on there, so obviously this is a post-pandemic. So it's written really poorly, and it's a very scattered. It's weird because it's a whole book. I've got some different things I want to point out about it as just interesting idiosyncrasies. Did I read the preface? I think I did. Surely
you read the thing about the dragon blood, but nothing else.
Oh no, I was asking myself, did I personally read the preface of the book? No, the thing about them having blue blood or whatever,
that's just for funsies.
Yeah, that's just a section in the book. But no, it's all these kind of incongruous thoughts all put together, although there are a couple threads that I'm interested in following. Specifically, the Russian angle. So I'm in the dedications. The first dedication is, of course, to all open-minded truthers. And then there's another person, or there's another group of people that he thanks that I think it like starts a weird trend. So he says researchers, right? But he does it in like a cute way. So it's re-searchers, but searcher with a capital S.
Oh, that's good. I like that.
This comes up a lot. He does a lot of that stuff. Like there's at one point where
it's fun to be kind of cute and creative in your own book.
Yeah, where like he's like, we are told / sold, yada yada yada. And it's just like, oh, okay. And like he does a lot of hyphen stuff that I'll point out as we go throughout the book. But there is a guy who is some sort of Russian mathematician, and he spends 50% of the dedication page just like talking about this guy and listing all of his honors. This guy wrote history, fiction or science, and his name is A.T. I'm so bad at pronouncing. Fomenko. Fomenko.
No idea.
Fomenko? I'm going to go with Fomenko.
Sure.
A.T. Fomenko, who is Anatoly Fomenko, who is an academic and Russian guy. There's a lot. He seems to be pulling a lot from this guy. And there's a big, you know how we talked about last time, how it's like, oh, Tartaria was a place, like in real life.
Yeah.
And it was just a name for like undiscovered lands to the east, which broadly encompassed like Russia. Like it was like a vague name for unexplored Russia.
Sam, clearly that's still kind of up for debate. So, maybe don't say that so sure.
Sure. But anyway, there's a really heavy undercurrent of like Russian, like here, let me give you a sentence that is apropos of nothing.
That's not, if this segment could be just you reading sentences apropos of nothing, that would be perfect.
Now, this is going to sound like it's in the middle of a thought, but don't worry, it isn't. This is why the roots of the Russian language are in all artificial what? It's really poorly written. This is why the roots of the Russian language are in all artificial languages created. Oh, I see. I'll give it one more try. This is why the roots of the Russian language are in all artificial languages created in the 19th and 20th century by the Jesuit parasite scholars led by Joseph Sclager. I don't know. In exchange for low taxes, Tartary would offer protection of its armies, the fearsome Golden Horde. Now, there's more about Russia here. Oh, the elimination of the Tartarians happened less than 150 years ago. Here it is. Look at today's Russia, officially called the Russian Federation, and you will understand how the world was in the old days. Now, within the present Russian borders live more than 150 ethnicities whom coexist with different degrees of knowledge and development, and their people speak 200 different languages and dialects. The Russian literacy is 98%. The remnants of the once great Tartary still can be seen there. And then it goes on to say something anti-Semitic. Also, if you were wondering, it took until page 3 that it got anti-Semitic.
Okay, good. In case, for viewers at home kind of doing their own sort of bingo sheet on the Tartarian Empire book.
Yeah, it's definitely, they talk about the Ashkenazi Jews and how...
Okay.
Here on page 3. The Ashkenazi Jewish people who were conscripted by the Vatican... Okay, yeah, I know why I highlighted this. Who were conscripted by the Vatican to be allowed to make all the money and all the fame.
Good.
As long as the Vatican... Jesuits and 13 satanic bloodlines would be provided with information and power.
So
there's nothing before or after the talks. It's like he goes on to talk about more of the Vatican, but like these are completely.
So this person, and this is page 3. So this
is the third page.
Yeah. So this is I would say unpredictably. I would say this is a bit out of left field, that the book is a little disjointed. I would not have expected that of this book. I would have thought that it would have, made some pretty concise arguments and then immediately backed those up with data.
Let me just throw you to one page earlier. Washington, D.C. is located in both Virginia and Maryland. This is Virgin Maryland. D.C. was originally called Rome in 1669, which is stated in the Catholic Encyclopedia. So, that's that. There's some sovereign citizen stuff. There's a couple things I wanted to point out. Okay, all right. So now we're in the. Is there anything funny in the preface? Oh, of course, the preface.
I mean, there's something funny on every page.
There is something funny on every page, to be fair. But the preface starts with, firstly, please do not believe anything written in this book to be true.
Oh.
So legally, we're clear. We do not have to go to court.
Oh, all right.
For this one.
What is his name, the author of this book?
James W. Lee, I believe.
James W. Lee. We will not be seeing you in court. You will not be hearing this, Your Honor. You don't exist. We're not reading this in front of everyone. Yeah.
Unless you guys are listening to all of our podcasts.
In which case, thank you. Please rate and subscribe. If you're listening to Spotify, please continue to do so.
Yeah.
Meet the Fockers too. Fucked up.
If we're in the court, just everybody could just give us like a 5-star review on Apple. Frank,
I know they probably took away. They probably took away the phones, but once you get those back, Jerry, please, if you could,
5-star review. It really helps other people find the podcast and wherever podcasts are found.
Yeah.
So, where was I? Oh, right. Please don't believe anything in this book to be true. Research, spelled the same way again. Re-search.
Good, cute.
For yourself and find what is truthful and discern with your own judgment. Blah, 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 blah. He then goes on to talk about how you need to be like tabula rasa, which is like open mind. No idea if that's what tabula rasa mean. Didn't look it up.
Well, we can only assume it's true.
Yeah, sure. And then it basically gets to a series of incoherent thoughts, so basically I just highlighted the funny ones. Rockefeller founded the modern-day school system and owned the school textbook companies as well. Now, there's a thing, the reason I bring that one up is because there seems to be this weird undercurrent with textbooks and Wikipedia. I don't know, it's something I'm keeping out for. Like, did this guy try to, like, make it in academia and was scorned for being a crank? And, like, now he's got a weird thing about textbooks? I'm not really sure. Mm-hmm. Here's a good one. There is a Project Ocean, which was started by Google, was a secret effort to scan every book in the world.
Oh.
And replace hardcover books with online books on Kindle. Now you might be thinking, Google doesn't own Kindle. That's Amazon. Irrelevant.
They're all the same. They're all
I guess.
Big tech is kind of all generally the same.
Well, Zach, are you sitting down? Are you ready to have your mind blown?
I usually stand up according to the podcast, but I will sit down for this.
I know, that's why I ask.
Okay, let me just...
Replace hardcover books with online books on Kindle, ... as in kindling a fire, a.k.a. book burning. So...
That's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
So the next thing I've highlighted is something
the energy of like a tweet.
Yeah.
Like
that has a youth pastor energy.
Yeah. Like, y'all on your Kindle, why don't you kindle your relationship with your kids?
I was literally yesterday I said Pokemon Go to the polls, and Sophie was like, what? And I was like, oh, sorry, let me explain this Pokemon Go to the polls thing. Very similar energy.
Yeah.
A quick diversion. One time I was in church and I was watching the sermon, as you do, and the pastor said something like that, but then like immediately like lost confidence in it as he was saying it. It was really funny because he's like, yeah, like you're on your phones and like you're looking down at them and like symbolically and physically you're kind of like bowing down to them. And then he just kind of like says it and hears himself say it. He's like, I mean, not really, I guess, but like it's kind of the same. It's like cool, great.
If he had just said it with his chest, it would have been it would have.
If you had doubled down, that could be on a t-shirt. But
People would have been like, that would have been your bag. That would have been your out.
Okay, so the next thing I highlighted is another one of his hyphenations, which is, speaking of church, history, which he hyphens as his story, which if you go to church, you might be familiar as a goofy thing Christians do where they refer to, it's history is his story, his being our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. So that's going to come up some more later, but he does, I wouldn't say always because there's a lot of inconsistencies in the book, but he almost always refers to history as his story. Eric Schmidt is the former CEO of Google and is now employed by the CIA and NSA. I couldn't find that to be true.
Could not verify that, but
couldn't verify it. I mean,
he has some pretty good sources, probably.
Yeah, I couldn't know. The next part is the introduction, which is called Intro Space Deduction. Like I said, this guy gets really cute with a lot of this stuff. So the intro deduction is the chapter that I am covering today. We have not actually gotten into chapter 1.
Ooh, okay. Let's get into it.
Now, I will say, you've read a book before, right, Zach?
Other
than The Secret Man?
Maybe one or two, yeah.
Okay. So you've read probably the introduction of a book, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, most of the time, would you say the introduction to a book is like kind of talking about what the book's going to be about and like giving you an introduction?
Yeah, it is an overture.
It's not like 6 pages of incoherent screeds about random. Everything I've read to you is from the introduction.
Okay.
Like non sequitur screeds that I assume the entire rest of the book is also like.
Mm-hmm.
One of the first things, and this comes up a lot, is well, now I'd like to just get, I guess, into the cosmology of this, because there is some sort of like it's written poorly, but there is a coherent frame. There's a coherent mythology.
Mm-hmm.
When you get into like actual events, it's all like the Jews and their blood or whatever.
Yeah.
It's not that anti-Semitic. I mean, it's very anti-Semitic, but it's like it doesn't come up a lot. There's not a lot about the Jews. But there is a kind of like mythology behind it that is somewhat coherent that you can kind of piece together.
So you agree with some of it?
No, I am telling you, I understood it as a cogent thought.
Okay.
Unlike most of it. So it seems in Tartaria, a couple of things. They had free energy, right? That it seems like the basic mythology is that they built all these beautiful buildings. I also joined the Tartaria subreddit, and hooey.
Oh my gosh, what?
They just take pictures of buildings and go like, I bet that's Tartaria. And it's like an 80-year-old shop. It's like not anyway. Basically, all these like old cathedrals and towers and obelisks and pyramids work.
How much of this book is pictures?
So much of this book is pictures.
Because you said something about memes, and I was just like, ooh, I wonder. Like,
there's whole chapter 8 is just pictures. I'm not even going to cover it. Like, I looked ahead, and chapter 8 is literally just great architecture of Tartaria, and it's like 7 pages of just pictures of buildings. The end of the book, it really seems like he lost steam, because it seems the end of the book is like largely pictures.
Yeah, he had a deadline to make. And it was just like pictures.
So, the basic mythology is that Tartaria built all these buildings, and they were used to conduct energy, like free energy from nature that comes from this thing called the ether, which at the beginning of the introduction is spelled capital AETHER. Later, for reasons I don't understand, it's just spelled ETHER. He just starts spelling ether differently. But the ether is this force, and all of these buildings use sacred geometry to like heal people and also give free energy. So a couple of things. You could travel by boat, car, or plane for free by simply accessing nature's magnetical energy that is omnipresent, and we have not been, quote, allowed this free energy to all, this free energy to all, due to our capitalizing system of greed and domination. So,
okay, I'm listening.
Yeah, they also had a geopolymer concrete that was eternal and grew stronger over time.
Okay, I'm listening.
Yeah, that comes up once or twice. The Tartarians have this concrete that gets harder over time, which is confusing because you would think we would have it still, but I don't know. And the basic idea is that about 100 years ago, what he calls the parasites, or also calls the New World Order, used directed energy weapons and like turned Tartarian technology against the Tartarians and like wiped them all out, even though they're everyone.
Yeah.
And then they burned all the books and changed everything to make us believe the Tartarian never existed. Also, there are several people in here that he claims never existed. The first one that is mentioned is Nikola Tesla.
Never existed.
What's interesting about Tesla is that there is a separate conspiracy that Tesla invented a bunch of free energy stuff and was using free energy from the air, and that the government is keeping that from us. So this guy is pilled on the pill.
Interesting.
He's like, yeah, the New World Order would have you believe that Tesla invented all this free energy technology, but actually it was Tartaria.
Oh.
So he's pilled on. You see, right? Like, none of this is real. And then there are people who are pilled who are like, oh, Tesla actually invented all this stuff. And he's like, no, that's just what the lizard people want you to think.
Right. That, yeah. Like, because it was only 100 years ago. So this was like, you know, in the 1920s. So rewriting history with heroes and or inventors that came up with this stuff, but it was actually there all along, and they needed to rewrite whomever came up with it. Even though like it was all there the whole time.
I don't want to spend too much time. We're already 23 minutes in, so I'm going to buzz through a lot of this. He also brings up Wikipedia a lot as a source, which is wild, but like I can't tell if he's for it or against it. So the first power stations were established in Cairo, Egypt in 876, according to Wikipedia. And like that comes up a lot where he'll just reference Wikipedia. That's the thing about the blood, the thing about DC, the Jews, the
Jews, the blacks, the Jews.
The Jews. No, they have not mentioned black people yet. More blood.
Okay. That's pretty progressive.
Wikipedia. He mentions this thing called the Ross Empire, which I could not find a source for. The Ottoman, the Byzantine, and Ross Empire. And not even in like conspiratorial circles. I didn't know what that meant. Oh, he believes in flat Earth. We know that from his other books. Oh, yeah.
I think one
on
thing
page 5. Go ahead.
I was thinking about one thing. It's like, you know, sometimes like in like old buildings, there's really big doors, you know? It's like
there's a whole section on. Yeah, go ahead.
I was like, you could follow that line of thinking of being like, we used to be giants, you know, like they have like, I'm going to come up with my own separate conspiracy theory and see if it takes off by just finding pictures of big ass old doors and then being like, remember what they took from you. Like now we used to be giants, and then they bred us to be whoever the fuck they are, Jews probably because they're small. They bred us to be smaller and smaller, and now when we see these big doors, we're just like, oh, who are these big doors for? And it's like they used to be for us before we were bred out of being giants.
Now
that's gonna be my conspiracy theory. I'm gonna start that and just see kind of how it goes.
You might be interested in chapter 13. There were giants among us, giants across USA, giant doorways, fossilized giants. And I will tell you, I've looked ahead. It's mostly pictures of big doors.
Oh shit! Okay.
Yeah, he fucking got you.
Damn.
Talks about Tartarian
I already had
Aryans.
I was gonna call it the Bunyan conspiracy theory, and it was all gonna hinder around how Paul Bunyan was real.
Very cool. More Wikipedia. He talks about the Hyperborea, which just a quick recommendation station. There is a podcast by a person named Liv Agar.
Okay.
They do a lot of really cool stuff. They're doing they're doing a series where they go chapter by chapter through Marx's Capital, which is really good. But also, they took a quick break to talk about the Hyperborea, which is a conspiracy theory about an ancient race of like alien white people who lived in Antarctica.
Interesting.
And that's where like the white race comes, is from these perfect aliens. Anyway, so
okay, I like
different
that. That's
conspiracy theory,
interesting.
but
Wait,
it's
can you
mentioned.
give me a brief? Is that all you know about it? I would love a brief rundown on that.
I don't think I have time to get into the Hyperborea and Tartaria. There's also I've found several other of these like conflicting but similar conspiracies.
Conflicting? Like, Sam. It's conflicting
I know.
because they invented a conflicting history so that you would be confused when going back on it. They designed it intentionally to crisscross and overlap and confuse you so that, it would be all of it, all the interpretations would be different. You got played. You got done. Played. You got by the edit.
Now, another thing he's really hung up on is the World's Fairs. I know he talks about it more, so I'm not going to get into it, but that's like a big thing, is like, and they talk about horse and buggies, where they're like, we didn't even have cars yet. How could anyone have built any buildings with just a horse and buggy? It's very dumb, but I know he talks about the horse and buggy era.
What?
I'm not kidding at all.
That's pretty good. It's like
we couldn't have built these buildings.
Yeah, like looking at the pyramids and go, fuck that. No, like 0% on that one.
No, but even like France, like Paris,
yeah.
Like, no, we couldn't have built that because all we had was horses and buggies. And Hitler was a myth. Let's see here. Oh, yeah, okay.
Well, that's interesting because Hitler would have been within those 100 years,
Yes, it would have. Bankers funded the rise of the Hitler myth, a character represented by several actors, among them Kermit Roosevelt, the second child of Theodore Roosevelt, parenthesis, Cecil Rhodes.
Oh, it's good to see people getting work. Now it's like you have a famous dad, and you're just like, like what am I gonna do?
Right. You might look up Theodore Roosevelt and Cecil Rhodes, who are of course two real people. They do not look alike at all. And if you look up Kermit Roosevelt, I've never seen a person that looks less like Adolf Hitler. But apparently these people played each other. We've never been to the moon and no planes hit the Twin Towers on 9/11. That's just a sentence that's in there.
Okay. Now it's like, you could have stayed focused and you could have just had like the 100 years ago, whatever. But it's just like that. I think this is Mr. Lee's like, okay, since I'm on my bullshit.
I'm on my bullshit. Okay. Now here I've got like two things left to talk about.
I'm in this.
So throughout
looked up Hyperborea. I found a video that I'm gonna watch later.
Yeah. Throughout he's talked about his story, of course, and in the beginning,
you have to pull the audience in with like kind of to weave your own narrative. That's how,
right, exactly,
because we love stories.
So, and also tabula rasa, as you remember from the introduction. I'm sorry, intro deduction, meaning an open mind, a clear mind. Let me read you this section at the end of basically his writing of the introduction. One can only conclude that all of his story is a lie, and that we are self-granted permission to create a tabula rasa in our minds, or to erase what we thought we knew and look at the information and documentation provided in this book for a new understanding of her story.
Ooh.
I am putting money down now that he will never say her story again. And I have no idea, because all the way through I'm like, oh, he's like vaguely Christian. This is like his story, Jesus Christ thing. But then at the end he's like, her story. But I don't know who the her is.
Now that's interesting. Where does Jesus find himself in the mix? Like, where does the Bible happen?
Jesus, okay, sorry. I can't remember if this is from this or from other Tartarian reading, but I believe some people believe that, if you're familiar with the book of Revelations,
which is the book, you know, if you're gonna be
the one.
Like, if you're gonna be a Christian conspiracy theorist, you're
gonna be a kook.
You're not throwing out Psalms, you know. You're not throwing out any
for those maybe some Daniel, some Isaiah, but for those who aren't familiar, there's a there's not a clear chronology in Revelation, and for my bona fides, I did study religion in college, so I'm very familiar with the book and other like contemporary writings. There's not like a clear chronology in Revelation. That's why there's a lot of debate about like when's the rapture, but there's this idea in Revelation of 1,000 years of Jesus' reign, where he's like king on earth for 1,000 years before a second rapture where we go to new heaven and new earth. It's not really totally clear if that's the order of things. People argue about when the 1,000-year reign is, but whatever. I mean, I don't want to get into what I think about Revelation. But anyway, so some Tartarian people believe that the 1,000 years already happened, and that Jesus is actually depicted. The New World Order erased Jesus' millennial kingdom by like pretending he was several different kings. So lots of kings throughout history were actually secretly Jesus.
That's interesting.
Now, I have not gotten into this in this book in particular, but I believe that is a Tartarian belief system. Now,
that's kind of fun because it has the implication that Jesus could be like a bunch of kings, and in order to sully Jesus's name, they were like Henry VIII was like a big dick who married a bunch of people.
Dummy.
Yeah, and Louis the whatever, like all those guys were just like rich assholes, and so that's good move.
Good move. Again, theologically, not really sure how that works if we are fully past the time of Jesus being on Earth the second time, but don't care. So
currently, according to the Tartarian thing, we are awaiting a second rapture.
I guess there's a third.
Interesting.
The third coming. So he also says, remember, member. May we one day soon find again and remember and return back to these amazing people called Tartarians.
Good.
So then this last section that I'm not going to go through because the other section.
Did you read the whole book?
No, this is all the introduction.
Are you serious?
It's only like 10 pages.
The whole book?
No. The introduction is like 10 pages and it's big font. It's just really tightly packed with a bunch of insane stuff. But
it's
like, and I'm not going to go
like it's like a week's long worth of like going through like really batshit crazy Facebook posts, and he's just like, I got them all. I compiled them.
I would love to go through this because it is totally deranged, but I just don't think we have the time because I know we have more planned. But there is a last section called "What If" by Marcia Romolo, and it is 30 points. They don't start with what if until like halfway through because it's also poorly written. But basically it's okay, what you would assume is that they are discrete points of like conspiracy. They're like a bunch of different conspiracies. They're like discrete points of like this and then this and then this because they're numbered. But sometimes you'll have stuff that's like that there were no weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. The interventions in Kosovo and Afghanistan were to make stratospheric profits with heroin and cocaine. The children in Sandy Hook did not die.
Yeah.
That's both in point 6. Like, those two sentences are right next to each other. I don't know why the Sandy Hook thing isn't a separate point, but it isn't. So anyway,
It's
a whole,
just,
like,
I mean, if it's a grab bag, you can, you never know. If you reach your hand into a bag of trail mix, you never know what you're gonna get. So I think he's just like, throw in that one. Like, I kind of have the sense he believes in all. Like, if you believe in Tartaria, you probably believe all the New World Order things. So it's like, whatever the New World Order is up to, this is like something recent we've uncovered about them, which is the Tartarian, that they deleted all of history. Yeah. And if you already believe in New World Order, it's like, oh, that sounds so like them, you know?
That's totally them.
That's totally them.
Here's where, okay, so first of all, this section is written by a different person who I've looked ahead and is quoted heavily, and like sections put in here heavily in the like text part of the book, basically the first couple chapters where he's actually writing. And I looked the guy up, and he has a 2.5 hour documentary called Ether. So I was like, okay,
documentary in huge air quotes,
huge quotes. But anyway, so I started watching it, and I recognize it's all text on screen, so I didn't keep watching it. But I started noticing that some of the initial segments of text were things that were written in this book, but this book came out after. And so one of my other theories is that this insane book is largely plagiarized from other people.
I mean, it's possible that this is kind of like, this is a history project that he is, as I'd said before, he's like gathering together all of the data and putting it into one concise place rather than you having to like search all over and find it.
That's
maybe
fair.
With a little bit of editorializing, like
sure,
like how you can get from Hyperborea or whatever it's called all the way to Sandy Hook. Maybe there's a bit of him putting his own sort of spin on things, but I imagine that I would say that plagiarism does not exist in the conspiracy community. It's all people kind of working together for a common good.
Okay, now I have one last theory that I want to talk about, and this is point number 5, and this is what totally fucked my brain. All of this other stuff, I'm like, yeah.
Jews, Sandy Hook, yeah.
Okay, yeah, it's an insane person. Here's my other theory is that maybe this book is a psyop. As I mentioned.
Oh no, Sam!
This could be another psyop. So in between all of this crazy stuff, point number 5, and I'm actually going to reread a part in point number 6. You know that an elite Nazi scientist was taken in the post-war to work with the United States through Operation Paperclip, that Nazi Alan Dulles was a CIA director and created the terrorist network responsible for attacks on European capitals since 1980, known as NATO Gladio Operation, that Winston Churchill caused tens of millions of deaths and no fires knocked down the Twin Towers in New York. You know that there are no weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, that the intervention in Kosovo and Afghanistan were to make stratospheric profits with heroin and cocaine. So all that is actually true, and obviously the Twin Towers things, whatever, but like everything else is like a verifiable fact.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know if Alan Dulles was a Nazi, he probably wasn't, but like Operation Paperclip was real, and we did get a bunch of Nazi scientists and bring them to America. Gladio was 100% real, and it was, now he leaves out the part where they're killing leftists, but whatever. And like, there weren't any weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, and going to Afghanistan was to make a bunch of money in heroin and coke. And so it's like, it makes it feel like a psyop because I'm reading it, and it's like all this other crazy stuff, and then this real stuff where I'm like, wait.
Yeah.
Is this for me to doubt the real facts that I know, which is that Operation Paperclip was real? Like, so it might be a psyop.
No, so I mean, you can think it's a psyop. However, I disagree. Having read enough of Secret Man and having it kind of interspliced with weird him being like out of nowhere, like very critical of the CIA and the FBI, and talking about all of the Banana Republics and all of the other like operations they did across the world, but still like within the same breath being like, but I'm a rogue, I'm a cool boy. Like, so I think that having, if the agenda is the same, then you can use facts in your misinformation. Like you can be like, see, like this happened, and it's like, and if they did this, then probably the world is only 100 years old as far as we know. Like, so
yeah, sure, yeah, maybe. Oh wait, there was another line that I wanted to read. What if history is in an intricate novel written and performed by very strange people? Which I think is just a well-written line that seems like it's something Kurt Vonnegut would say. And I'm like,
that is...
All right, you wrote one... I mean, James W. Lee didn't write it, but this other guy, you wrote one good line. Good line.
Yeah,
what if history was an intricate novel written and performed by very strange people?
Yeah.
That's a cool thing to say.
Yeah. That is, an equivalent to is like all the world's a stage, like Shakespeare.
It's like a good line. Anyway, so that is King mindset. Oh, also, the New World Order is immortal, and there's lots of people being actors. I feel like it's going to come up more. But
okay, I mean, so I'm just going to assume. I'm just going to go ahead and say right now that Hillary Clinton's going to come up. She's just going to come up.
100%.
Yeah. Like that's just kind of the way that things roll.
But that's King mindset.
I feel so enlightened. I feel like so much smarter and like my mind being open in such these ways. Like I've been looking at all of these photos that from this Reddit, and a lot of them are just like really interesting. Like
just like pictures of buildings.
Yes, all these pictures of buildings, and how I know that some of them are underground or whatever. Like there's this really beautiful one of a library, and it just seems like it's in like a forbidden section, of just content that I'm not supposed to have. And
what?
Oh my gosh!
You motherfucker!
If I zoom in, I can
God
see.
Damn it.
I can see the Secret Man.
Double book club.
Everybody, welcome to Secret Book Club. This is the story of Frank Dux and his uncensored story. But actually, this week is going to be a little bit different because of something that I showed to Sam right before this show.
Holy shit, yeah.
So this is less of a secret man and more of like the Secret Book Club presents. And this is something that I have found within my reading of The Secret Man this week. And by the way, when we get into The Secret Man, it is the chapter Fish Gives a Nibble. So if you're reading along at home, it's chapter 15, Fish Gives a Nibble. But
also, if we have to go longer than usual, that's fine.
No.
I want to hear about this.
No, I very much. I'm the thing I'm going to mention. I want to keep Frank's antics to the side because of how much I want to talk about this thing. So this is Secret Book Club presents, and so within this chapter, I'll give you kind of the intro. So it introduces Frank having to find out who Fish is. And it intros with a new case that happened, a new murder, but this murder is this time used with something called a Flying Dutchman, which is a spring-propelled bayonet. So instead of using just heavy guns, heavy Russian guns, now Fish is using fucking bayonets.
A knife gun.
Yeah, presumably
he made
it's
knife gun,
and it says here possibly to leave clues.
Why would anyone want to leave clues?
And it's like
he made a knife gun to leave clues.
Yeah, leave clues. And so in this one, we introduce Frank kind of on the trail of Fish from a new murder using something called a Flying Dutchman. So Frank is moving around, and he finds out about this new case about the Flying Dutchman, and so he finds out who the person was murdered, and it's this guy who was murdered. But not only was he murdered, his hands were chopped off at the wrist, and his face was totally mangled, so he couldn't be identified.
Her arms were cut off. Her legs were cut off. Her ears were cut off. Her tongue was cut off.
But Frank, using his contacts in the CIA, found out that the man that was killed was a homeless man. So Frank goes to the homeless camp in a Porsche. He makes sure to reference that he is in a Porsche when he goes to the homeless camp.
I know this is made up, and it still makes me mad that he did that.
No,
he
but
did that.
But here's the thing: out of respect to them, he parked far away and then walked in because he felt uncomfortable driving his Porsche up to a homeless camp.
Fine. I'll make fun of the next thing. That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever. That's
so he meets someone by the name of who calls himself Turtle. Fucking whatever.
From Entourage.
Yeah,
He
meets Turtle from Entourage, and he's like, "Yo, Frank, what's going on?" So he meets Turtle, and Turtle lets him know that the man that was murdered, the one that had his hands chopped off and his face messed up, was a guy that he only knew as someone named Slick. And
of course,
yeah. So he says to Turtle, he goes, "Yo, Turtle, like, why did this guy get murdered?" And he said, "Well, word on the street was that he was in something called Operation Phoenix, and Phoenix was, according to this book, some ex-Viet Cong / mercenaries that were going kind of against their own. So they were paid by the U.S. government to kind of get information / like do sketchy Vietnam stuff. And then from there, Frank goes into this really, really strange chat, like 2 pages, which is honestly interesting for him to kind of, whoa, Frank is in your house.
Oh, yeah, that's my wife. She's putting dishes up.
He knows we're about to talk about him. But so Frank goes on this like kind of 2-page rant that is not like him to get so far away from his own story to talk about someone else. And within this, he talks about someone named Richard Marcinko. He calls him the Rogue Warrior. And
oh my God.
It goes on for so long that I was like, this guy's real. This is a real person.
Yeah.
Like Frank.
Does he have beef with them or does he like him?
Well, no. So he's talking about how much like he loves this guy because Frank Marcinko was
not Frank Marcinko.
Oh, sorry, Richard Marcinko, Dick Marcinko.
They got married, and now Frank Marcinko.
Yeah, honestly, I can see it. So Richard Marcinko was the creator of SEAL Team 6, and the reason I know this is because I looked him up after I read this.
Oh, that's true.
So if we look up Richard Marcinko, he's a real dude. And so Frank is talking so extremely highly of this guy, and all the things he says about him, according to Richard Marcinko, are also true. That this guy was the creator of SEAL Team 6, that it was his idea to name it SEAL Team 6 because there were only 2 SEAL teams at the time, and when they were making a third one, he was like, hey, let's confuse them by saying we have 6 of them instead of 3. And so they have this thing called SEAL Team 6, and then from SEAL Team 6, I'm going to kind of get into this because this is the real meat of what I want to get into. This guy created SEAL Team 6, which is Richard Marcinko's like real claim to fame.
Yeah, first line of his Wikipedia.
Exactly. But
Second
then
line, sorry.
After that, he makes this thing that Frank also mentions called Red Cell, which didn't seem, because in the book, Frank is talking about how Red Cell is an operation that the SEAL Team 6 guy, he made basically a super team that they were basically tasked with breaking into like high security areas in the United States, like nuclear powered submarines or like other like bases where like a lot of sensitive information was held. And their whole job was to be like, to see how vulnerable America's securities were by them breaking into these places.
What?
Yeah. So
wait, I just thought you misspoke when you said America. He's going to American submarines, breaking into them.
He has a super secret team
Red Cell.
of him going into like him basically breaking into places just to see how the security was. The guy's like a health inspector for like high secure areas.
Sure.
Like he would go in and do all this
He's
stuff.
a white hat, as the QAnon people would
Yes.
say. He's a white hat.
Now, so we see some words in the Wikipedia, which I have
Okay.
also seen in Frank's Wikipedia.
Now, I closed it to keep it a surprise.
Okay. Marcinko has, and here's the important word, claimed,
Got it.
among other things, that Red Cell successfully captured nuclear devices from United States Navy facilities and proved the viability of plans to penetrate and attack submarines, destroy subs, and using them as dirty bombs, and also capture launch codes for nuclear weapons. However, former members of Red Cell maintain that these exercises were a cover to move special warfare operators around the world for covert missions against real-world terrorists. So,
Or villages full of unarmed people.
yeah.
Who knows?
So, yeah,
One
who
of the
knows?
two.
Who knows? So what we have here is is Garfield 2, A Tale of Two Kitties.
Sure.
We have that Red Cell was either just like a kind of a boogeyman name that was used to just kind of move people around clandestinely so they could go, so SEAL team people could move across the world without being detected.
Yeah.
Or B, that Marcinko and his team were super badass spies who broke into nuclear powered submarines and like basically tested the mettle of American security. We don't know whether or not that is true. However, we do know that on March 9th, 1990, Marcinko was sentenced to 21 months in federal prison and fined $10,000 under charges of defrauding the government over the price of contractor acquisitions of hand grenades, which basically means, basically he was using his position of power to receive kickbacks to get like money from people that wanted his information, or people that like in the same way that I guess according to this, if we're following his narrative here, if someone, say, got a bad review on their place, he would get bribed to say they were secure or whatever. But all of this is still kind of up in the air. However, all this is kind of like wackadoo and whatever. Red Cell, like SEAL Team 6, real. Red Cell, maybe not as real, but we do know this. That Richard Marcinko has come out with about 17 books, and all of them are following him as the main character, called the Rogue Warrior, the Rogue Warrior Saga, where he is the main star.
Got it.
So the first one is, and this is why it is a backdoor pilot. The first one is called Rogue Warrior, and it is about his time in SEAL Team 6 and Red Cell. Remember,
Sure.
Red Cell may or may not be real.
Sure.
And 2 through 17 are books that were written by someone else where he is a fictionalized version of himself.
What you sent me was a promo for the second book that was
what I sent you was a promo for the 13th book.
Oh my god, okay. You sent me for a promo for a different book.
Yeah.
And what I responded was, so there's like a whole genre of these guys, who like... I mean, Frank is pretending to be in the CIA, so it's a little different, whereas this guy was like actually doing stuff.
So this is where I think things are interesting. I think this guy is like... Because Frank, by talking,
he's the guy.
When Frank was in the chapter here, Frank was talking in such high regard for him and talking about how cool he was and how like Frank did mention that he went to jail for receiving kickbacks, but it was like, but that's because everyone was jealous. They were jealous of him.
He was such a good kisser. And
yeah,
okay, so are you suggesting that Frank read these Rogue Warrior books, and that's how he came up with this whole persona?
So the timeline does match up.
Oh my god. We've cracked the case.
So the timeline matches up, but this dude, he looks like Steven Seagal. He looks like every I'm a big badass guy. He looks like that guy. Like in the video I sent you, he has this big beard but he has hair that's pulled up in a ponytail, like the way
Classic
that Steven Seagal does it. So I think that like this guy is like Frank's inspiration. I think that he thinks he is like the coolest.
He's the actual secret man.
But I think so. This is my
but also an
pilot.
Insane liar.
My backdoor pilot is for is so I was kind of getting a little worried that, you know, as I'm reading through Secret Man and I'm more than halfway done, it's like, oh man, like nothing else will really compare to Secret Man, which is true. And I was like, what am I going to do?
Nothing will ever compare.
What am I going to do after Secret Book Club? And then I was like, this could be a backdoor pilot for Rogue Book Club, which is the Rogue Warrior story. Because here's the thing about Frank. Frank sometimes, Your Honor, sometimes Frank gets a little boring because
that's not liable. You can just say that you thought the book was boring.
The amount of insane things that Frank says is always entertaining, but you always know it's a lie. Like Your Honor, you always know that there is absolutely no truth to whatever he has just said.
Because usually it doesn't make any like spatial sense.
Yeah. But I think with the Rogue Warrior, I'll read the book before I like get into it, but I think that there could be a chance of kind of a like, oh, like what's real and what isn't real. Like, and
we know that Frank, you know, Parody was not in the CIA.
Exactly.
Or the secret. He did none of this stuff.
Yeah.
Get kicked out of a dojo and be told he's not Japanese. Like, other than that, he didn't do any of it.
That's real.
That one was real.
And he may or may not be actually engaged. Who knows?
Who knows? But like, he didn't do any of this other shit. So you're saying, is your assumption that Rogue Warrior? Because again, obviously, I would not be interested in going through like fully fictionalized books, right? Written by someone else.
No, absolutely not.
But are you suggesting that Rogue Warrior is also full of weird, insane lies?
I am of the mind that I feel like Rogue Warrior might be full of wackadoo, insane lies, but
which would be cool.
Yeah, which would be rad. But I think he has a sequel that's called Red Cell. And this one is the first in his like fictional thing. But I think because it's the second one, I think that Red Cell is going to be a bit more of where he talks about Red Cell. And while he is he's kind of using the guise of a fictionalized book, it's probably him being like, yeah, but I did this.
Hey, but for real.
I did this stuff. So
I'm definitely interested in a guys who pretend to be in the CIA book club of like other guys that are faking that they're in the CIA, or this guy faking that he did some like dirty bomb thing. Like I'm interested in more of these operators. Like
Absolutely.
I'm interested in operator culture for sure.
And finally, I am most interested in the 2009 video game Rogue Warrior, which is about Richard Marcinko.
Oh my god, how does this keep happening?
There is a video.
Hollywood, do better. Quit being pedophiles and do better.
I found this video game called Rogue Warrior, and it is about Richard Marcinko, a veteran U.S. Navy SEAL, on a mission into North Korea to disrupt a ballistic missile launchers. Some
shit he made up.
Marcinko was voiced by Mickey Rourke of the wrestler fame, so that's pretty cool. And Rogue Warrior received generally negative reviews from critics and is cited as one of the worst games ever made.
I mean, we should definitely play and review Rogue Warrior. What console is it on?
It is on Microsoft Windows, PlayStation 3, and Xbox 360. It came out in 2009.
I wonder if I can get it on Steam.
I would be so surprised.
I mean, maybe. Interesting. Have you ever heard of the Guantanamo Bay video game?
No.
So I'm trying to find it. Inside the No, I'm sorry. This is a different thing. Everyone's telling me about the video game library at Guantanamo Bay for the soldiers, not the prisoners, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
They're just getting human rights abuses. Anyway, so apparently at some point, and I can't find this, I can't give you all the details, but someone wanted to create a video game about Guantanamo Bay where you were a prisoner and you, like...
Interesting.
Escaped.
Interesting.
And shot a bunch of soldiers.
Cool.
A wild idea for a game. It got canceled pretty shortly after, but there is video footage of like, oh yeah, this is the playtest for the Guantanamo Bay video game.
Interesting.
Which is so fucking wild.
Yeah, we're about to be a video game review podcast.
Yeah, but only of very dumb, weird games. Like
that have an even
Warrior.
weirder backstory.
Okay.
So,
well, I will check and see if Rogue Warrior is on Steam, and I'll 100% it. I'll get the speed.
Yeah.
Holy shit, Zach.
Mm-hmm.
What if we got the speed run record for? What if we got?
Okay.
The speed run record for Rogue Warrior, the dumb game made by an insane person.
I mean, I would have to see who else there, but I mean, that if anything is to be our legacy, it is that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, all right. We'll deal with that later. But no, I'm definitely. I mean, you still owe me a secret man. I gotta know about fish, but
Absolutely.
Some other time.
Yeah. Well, anyway, that's our show. Thank you all so much for listening to Get Better. If you want to get in contact with us, you can go to meetthefockers2 fockedup@gmail.com. That is meetthefockers2 fockedup@gmail.com. You can also find us on Instagram at Get Better Podcast. That's at get_better_podcast. And if you're listening to us on Spotify, please continue to do so. But if you're listening to us on Apple, please just give us a rate and review. It's a 5-star and really helps us to get noticed. And I really, speaking of speed running, I really sped through that outro. I think I got all of it. So, see you guys next week.
All right.
All right.
See you. Bye forever.
See you. Bye forever.